Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. It's Alyssa. I am finally here to do my notable reads from May. We're almost done with June, but we're going to do my notable reads from May. So let's just jump into that. So as per usual, I will be doing 6 notable reads from the month of May. So these are 6 books that, sorry, I'm still trying to I haven't filmed in Fantasy Corner in a while, so I'm trying to get the setup right. These are 6 books that were notable for some reason during the month of May. Usually there are books that I very much enjoyed. Sometimes I do an honorable mention. I think I have one this month. And this is my new shirt from Hello Lovely Box. I get like their monthly subscription, so it's sort of morphed into like a t-shirt subscription. So this is May's t-shirt. Seems appropriate that I'm wearing it for the May notable reads. I put on a little bit of makeup for you guys so that I don't scare you. And we're just gonna jump right in with what my new favorite things are. One of my new favorite things is using my StoryGraph stats. So let's talk a little bit about how May went. May was an interesting month because I did go on vacation, so I expected to read more books, which I did, but then I also got the lovely COVID. If you've been following along with the weekly vlogs, you know that was fun. So yeah, I read a little bit more than I probably would have normally just because I had an extra week at home because of COVID. So once I got the energy to really sit down and read, there really wasn't much else for me to do. I couldn't go anywhere, I couldn't see anybody, I couldn't do anything. So yeah. So in the month of May, I read 24 books, and that was 6,970 pages. My top 4, like my big categories of mood, I love this mood one, I don't know why, were emotional, dark, reflective, and mysterious, which just feels like normal. I'm still reading mostly medium-paced books. I'm not really sure how to pace books. I know some books are just slow and some books are fast, but when we're talking about medium, if I'm not trudging through and I'm not incapable of stopping, then everything's a medium. So that's what I feel like ends up happening. My page count was a little bit smaller, which makes sense because I was reading more books. I read a lot shorter books than I did. I read shorter books than I did in April, which is when we started adding in these stats. And so I read 63% of what I read was under 300. So the majority of them were under 300 pages. I did read a little bit of nonfiction, but mostly it was fiction. But my top genres were literary, as always, LGBTQ+, science fiction, fantasy, and contemporary. And then from there, it just kind of trickles down into a lot of different things. And yeah, so my average star reading was 3.8. I realized that I'm an incredibly tough rater compared to what I think I am. Do you think you're an easy book rater? It's just every book gets a high rating? Or do you think you're a really hard book rater where you'll be really extra judgmental and knock points off for certain things and Because, and then do they match up? When you look at your Goodreads, your StoryGraph, and you see your average ratings, does it match up with what you think? Because I always think I give everything 5 stars, and then I look at these things and I see 3.8, or I'll see 3.2 as my overall rating or something like that. So it's I think that I'm a little harsher. Harsh is the word I've been looking for. I think I'm a little harsher than I maybe just assume in my head, but I don't know. I am currently as of recording here on June 21st, so it is summer solstice. Happy summer solstice. I'm at 99 books of 200, so I'm almost halfway. I should hopefully finish something soon. And so yeah, let's get into the books. I'm not going to talk about too much because again, it was part of a book prize. I'm not sure if everyone's done judging this book. And it's The Membranes by Chi Ta Wei. And I'm picking this as a notable read because one of my favorite books from last year was Clara and the Sun by Kazu Ishikaru. One of the things that Clara and the Sun deals with is this this sort of futuristic society where you have these AIs and all of that. And it's talking a lot about humanity, and it's from this AI's perspective, and it's this really interesting literary sci-fi. And there's a lot of similar vibes between The Membranes and Clara and the Sun, where you have this literary sci-fi, you have a mother and a daughter and having this weird relationship, and the daughter is the main focus of the story, And it almost feels kind of like this could be a story within the story of Clara and the Sun, if that makes any sense. So I really enjoyed this book. I thought this was fantastic. Totally worth the read. If you like literary sci-fi, go for it. These earrings are weirdly painful considering they're not really like made of anything. I think it's because the wire is like almost too thin and it feels like it's killing my ears. Anyway, we're gonna get through this video and then we'll deal with the earrings. The other book that I don't have a like physical copy of is actually a manga, which is something that I did read more of in May than I had been reading recently, and that was Spy Family. I read the first volume. I need to get back to it, but I just haven't had a chance to like pull out my Kindle and, or sorry, my iPad and read through the electronic copies that I have of the next couple books. I would definitely love a full bind up of all of them, but one day. Mangas are so expensive. But anyway, so this is a really fun, this is by Tatsuya Endo, and it's a really fun manga where you have this like guy who's sort of a secret agent. For a case, he ends up having to like adopt this random child who kind of has like superpowers, and but like she has to go to this fancy school, and that means that they have to have a mom. So then he gets this like assassin as a like the secret assassin as a pretend wife, and it's funny and interesting and just a good time. It'll make you feel wonderful. These earrings need to come the heck out. I really enjoyed that. I thought that was a fantastic little manga that has, it's very popular, so I'm not surprised that I liked it. One day maybe I'll read the anime when I'm done reading all of the, I'll watch the anime when I'm done reading all of the volumes, for I cannot think with my ears like this. I'm taking them off. We're doing it. I can't do it. I tried, guys. I tried so hard to be like cute, but these are like, they're destroying me. They go over there. I've talked about these next four quite a bit, so I'm sorry. But we're going to talk about them again. So one is Sweet Bean Paste by Durian Sugagawa. And this was a book that I started in January in Japan, and I finished on vacation, you know, like 4 months later, because I got distracted because I had it, I didn't have it physically. And so I got it physically, and then it sort of sat on my shelves for a while because I kind of moved on to some other things. And so I was like, you know what, I'll bring it. I brought a bunch of books that needed to be finished that didn't have much more to go to vacation with me so I can finish them. So I finished this. I absolutely love this book. So you have Sentaro, who is, or this guy who's out of jail, I believe for drug-related crimes, if I remember correctly. He drinks a little bit too much. He runs this durian shop, and he's not very good at making the sweet bean paste for this particular like pastry. But so the shop's not doing really well, but he has to run the shop because that's how he's paying back this guy that owned the shop. He's dead, but his wife owns it now. He's got to keep paying back his debts because, you know, this woman's husband got him out of prison or something like that. He's like just kind of like this depressed, lost creature, and this little old lady, gnarled little old lady, shows up and basically like inserts herself into the durian shop and is like, she like brings her own sweet bean paste. He's like, nobody can see you because you look terrifying, because she's all like gnarled up and has like no hands, and like she kind of shuffles around, and she's not like a spry old lady. And eventually they develop a relationship. Eventually it comes out like why she is the way she is. There becomes issues with the lady who owns the durian shop when she finds out this little old lady has been working here secretly. There's a young girl who kind of comes into the mix who's also a little bit lost. And it's just this really beautiful story talking about people that are sort of on the outside of things and them finding each other and finding love and acceptance in themselves and in each other. And it's really, really beautiful. And at the very end of the book, the little old lady and Sentaro, they write letters to each other, and the letters are just so brilliant. I mean, heartbreaking. And I just love this book so much. Like, it's going to make you just feel all the feels. Okay, so here's one of these letters. It's my belief that everything in this world has its own language. We have the ability to open our ears and minds to anything and everything. That could be someone walking down the street, or it could be the sunshine or the wind. I realize I may have seemed like a nagging old woman to you, and I regret that for all I said, I couldn't pass this vital message on to you. When I walk through the woods at Tenshuen, I think of Dora Haru, you, those sweet young girls in Wakana. Ever since I became estranged from my sister, I don't know anyone else living out in this world. Now that I'm not sure how much longer I have left, I feel as if you and Wakana are my family. It is just so lovely. I don't want to share everything because there's just like little surprises throughout, and it's beautiful and lovely. And covers like this, like I kind of just know the book is going to destroy me somehow. Like it looks sweet, but next up is Severance by Ling Ma, which I picked up only because Naomi picked it up, and I picked it up from the library, and so I got it from the library. I'll read it. Naomi picked it up. She seemed really excited about it. I do that sometimes when Naomi gets excited about books. She does that sometimes when I get excited about books. And I just was like, whatever, I'll read this library book. Then I got it from Book of the Month because it was freaking fantastic. This book is amazing. So I'll read you a little bit of the synopsis, or I'll try to summarize it for you. Is it the end of the world or just another day at the office? So Candace Chen is a newly minted New Yorker, first-generation American, recent orphan, millennial worker bee, and loves going to work. She likes the routine and the anonymity of the city. She likes coordinating the production of specialty Bibles, having a project to complete, an object to create, troubles to shoot, and sometimes she likes watching movies in her boyfriend's basement apartment, lather, rinse, repeat. So Candace barely notices when Shen fever sweeps New York. Families flee, companies cease operation, the subway squeaks to a halt, persuaded by a big payout to be a one-person skeleton crew at the office. She spends her free time photographing the abandoned city as an anonymous blogger, New York ghost. So that's where I'm going to go on this. So basically, she ends up on this sort of Station 11-like journey to this place with these people that have survived Shen fever. And you get a little bit more background on what Shen fever is, but you also get these like flashbacks to her life as a child, to being an immigrant, to her parents, to her arrival in New York, to her relationships, to working and publishing in the sense of like making these Bibles. And it's just a really well done sort of dystopian literary narrative that weaves in all these other parts that just keep you on your toes. So it's not just dystopian. It is not just like sort of sci-fi. It is not just this pandemic book. It is so much more. It really speaks to what it's like to be an immigrant in America, what it's like to be a woman, what it's like to work in publishing, advertising, like this area where she works, this creative area, or like book creating, because she's really like creating the actual book. And it's just, it's so good, and it's quick and wonderful, and like everybody needs to read this book. Also, it's really like just pretty and simple, and I kind of like the cover. These next two I've talked about quite a bit, so I don't know if I need to talk about them anymore, because if you've watched any of my content in May, you will have already heard me gush about these. But the first is How to Change Your Mind, What the New Science of Psychedelics Teaches Us About Consciousness, Dying, Addiction, Depression, and Transcendence by Michael Pollan. I think about this book so much, which is why it's on this list, because there's just so much interesting, and this is out of date. Like, I'd love for like an update to this, because there's just so much interesting research that is coming out of this whole like mushroom psychedelic space and what it can be used for. So I find it fascinating, and it got me really interested in mushrooms in general. Like, I just think they're really cool. They're just like a really neat little creature, like, because they are their own thing, and they outweigh us. Like, we eat them and they eat us. Mushrooms are just so interesting. And anyway, I'm not going to go there. We're not going there, Alyssa. We're not going down the mushroom rabbit hole. This book is just really fascinating. I think it's really interesting, the research that's getting done on its effectiveness for things like alcoholism, and for like accepting a terminal illness, a diagnosis. Because a lot of times it's really hard for people to face death. It is an incredibly existential thing. I can't. I mean, I spend a lot of my time counseling people about, you know, different concerns they may have about continuing with dialysis treatment. Can I keep doing this? What happens if I stop? Like, do I have to do this? I don't want to do this, all this stuff. So I do talk to people a lot about the concept of death, but it's a very scary thing. Like, you can't, I can't even fathom what it's like to be given a terminal illness diagnosis and be like cognizant of it, to know that like in 6 weeks, 6 months, a year, I'm going to just be dead. That is hard, I think, for anybody, but I love this idea that you can take like a guided trip and come out the other end like a much more positive person, and and accepting of your diagnosis, and then the value that that gives to the rest of your time here on this planet. Because there are some, you know, there's some stories in here where people talk about how they felt, and then their family members talk about what it was like with them after they did this, and there's almost like this lightness of coming out, and then it's almost like they can enjoy the last however long it is without the added burden. Like there's this acceptance that's come, so they're not burdened somehow as much by the diagnosis and can just focus on the beauty that is they're living the rest of their lives. I think it's very interesting. Obviously, I don't know if any of it's truly valid, but it's just a thing that is happening in the world that I think is interesting. And so I would like to read more. So if anybody has any more books that are kind of like this, I have a couple of like mushroom like books, like from that big mushroom guy. I just think this is really interesting and I would love to read more. If you can't guess what book is on this list and has to be on this list, and it's the last book on this pile, you're not watching my vlogs. And you should watch my vlogs. They're fun. But On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous. I mean, this Oceanfun. I was talking to somebody, like, either they were commenting on mine or I was commenting on theirs. I don't know. We were commenting on this book and talking about it. And I was like, I don't have words. She was like, or they were like, I don't know. It was just a random ass stranger on the internet. And they were like, oh, it's my third time through. I'm like, I am still trying to find the words to describe how I feel about this book, because I am clearly not speechless because I'm still talking, but I just don't have the words to describe the beauty of this book, of this like letter to his mother about like him and his life and their relationship and all the things that this son has gone through, from figuring out that he's queer, not finding out that he's queer. He didn't get a letter that said, hey, I'm queer. Accepting his queerness, getting a boyfriend, dealing with homophobia, dealing with opioid addiction, dealing with like art, being a writer and struggling, and dealing with being an immigrant, dealing with the trauma that his mother has from being from Vietnam in a post-Vietnam War time frame. And it's just, it's so good. The stories about what his mom and his grandmother had to do to get here, I don't have words. I just don't have words. It's just so freaking good. And like, you have to read it. If you like literary fiction, you have to read it. You just have to read it. And if you don't want to read it, you need to go get the audiobook, because he narrates it and it's fantastic. I have so many different highlights. I need to highlight more things. He and Trevor, his like boyfriend, are out there and they're kind of looking at the sky, and he goes, Cleopatra saw the same sunset. Ain't that crazy? Like, everybody who was ever alive only seen one sun. To love something, then, is to name it after something so worthless it might have to be left untouched and alive. A name thin as air can also be a shield, a little dog shield, because he was called Little Dog by his family. Will I be lost in the story we tell ourselves? Who will be lost in ourselves? A story, after all, is a kind of swallowing. To open a mouth in speech is to leave only the bones, which remain untold. It is a beautiful country because you are still breathing. It's a beautiful book, and you all need to read it. What's this one? I have one more. Let's see what this one is. If it's good, I'll read it to you. If not, we'll wrap it up. Maybe we look into mirrors not merely to seek beauty, regardless of how elusive, but to make sure, despite the facts, that we are still here. That the haunted body we move in has not yet been annihilated, scraped out. To see yourself still yourself is a refuge men who have not been denied cannot know. I read that beauty has historically demanded replication. We make more of anything we find aesthetically pleasing. Whether it's a vase, a painting, a chalice, a poem, we reproduce it in order to keep it, extend it through space and time, to gaze at what pleases. A fresco, a peach red mountain range, a boy, the mole on his jaw, is in itself replication. The image prolonged in the eye, making more of it, making it last. Staring into the mirror, I replicate myself into a future where I might not exist. We were all once inside of our mothers, saying with our entire curved and silent selves, more, more, more. I want to insist that our being alive is beautiful enough to be worthy of replication. And so what? So what if all I ever made of my life was more of it? Mic drop. Read the book. I did say I have one notable read, and we're not going to talk about it a lot because I talked about it enough in the weekly vlog where I read it, and that is Lolita. So this was a book that we picked in this TBR Lowdown podcast episode. Subscribe to the podcast. New episodes every Monday. Where Naomi and I read each other like the first paragraph of a couple different books, and we smashed our past on them, and then basically we built for each other like a TBR. And I'm slowly making my way through that TBR, but the first book I read from that was Lolita, and I will say that Nabokov is a fantastic writer. I will also say that did he have to apply his writing to that specific book? Like, did we need Lolita? Did we? Did we need Lolita? If you've read it, I want to know your thoughts below. I need to know how everybody feels about it, but like, I can't unread it. Those were my notable reads from May. I can't believe how late this is. I can't believe how much I've rambled. It's almost half an hour. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'd love to know what you guys read in May. What were some of your favorites? What were some of the worst books you read in May? Just let me know. Talk to me. Let me know what's going on. I just love talking about books, and I'd love to know what you're reading. Otherwise, please consider liking and subscribing if you enjoy bookish content and following along in my bookish life. Otherwise, I'll see you guys in my next video, whatever it may be, because it's my channel and I can do whatever I want. Bye.
So just sit with me, talking to the night until the morning, building chemistry. I don't think I ever wanna go come closer next to me. Trying to find another way to say this, but I think